welcome to Masters of Divinity. I am your moderator, JP, and I am here with Father Chuck.
Hey.
With his red swing line stapler.
I have a red swing line stapler.
Did you steal that from somebody?
You know, I saw one once at it was at like some restaurant, like a Chili's or something. And I said to my mom, I was like, I really kind of want to steal it because it feels only appropriate if I'm going to get it, if I steal it. But and I could tell in her brain she was contemplating it, but we didn't. And then this was then presented to me a couple days later in a package. It was bought.
No, it's not stealing. You know, it's like the tray with the pennies in it, and you take a penny from the tray.
Right, the pennies for everybody. Yeah,
pennies for everybody.
But we're talking fractions of a penny.
The tray.
And of course, I am also here with a jump to conclusions, Matt.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry, buddy. We'll get a name for you eventually.
Thank you and good night.
Jump to conclusions, Matt. That is wonderful.
I say that I vote that that's my name on podcast from now on. I am Jump to Conclusions, Matt.
It fits.
Perfect.
It actually really does fit.
Perfect. It's perfect.
I mean, but you don't really jump to conclusions, though.
So, ladies and gentlemen, here on our Office Space episode, we found the perfect name.
Actually, I would say it's more fitting if it's like slowly and wordily meander to conclusions, Matt.
Meander.
I could burn the place down.
Well, this week we're talking about the 1999 cult classic Office Space, directed by Mike Judge,
which was released 20 years ago Wednesday.
Right, which was the 18th, February 18th.
No, wait. No. That was the 20th. Sorry, it was Tuesday because it was released on February 19th, 1999, which was Tuesday, I think.
Guys, Office Space did not do well when it was released in theaters. And in fact, it did horribly. It made like $10 million the opening weekend. And that's, even for 90s box office numbers, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, and it was Mike Judge's first theatrical release, like live action theatrical release, because he had done, of course, Beavis and Butthead Do America prior to that. Okay.
All right, so we're talking about Office Space. If you're not familiar with Office Space, which marked the live action directorial debut of Mike Judge, best known at the time for the animated TV series Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hill, revolves around everyman Peter Gibbons, who works as a programmer at a company called Initech, where he hates his job and is constantly bothered by his odious boss, Bill Lumberg. Yeah. His best friends at work are his fellow programmers, Samir and Michael Bolton, who live in fear that they will be fired. Peter's life changes when his girlfriend takes him to an occupational hypnotherapy session. When the therapist dies while Peter is still hypnotized, he wakes up the next morning carefree and relaxed. He breaks up with his girlfriend and begins dating Joanna. And instead of getting in trouble with his new laid-back attitude at work, his bosses love his newfound perception. When Peter discovers that his friends will be fired, the three hack the company's computer accounting system, diverting small monies into their account. But, of course, it doesn't turn out quite the way they expected. It's from Variety. They did really good write-up on the movie, by the way.
Nice.
So, yeah, that movie turns 20. We're all old.
Yep.
And I'd say, I don't know what it is about this movie, but I feel like everybody can quote it. Like, I feel like this is one of those movies that's one of the most quotable movies ever made.
It's very quotable, and I think it's partly quotable because of how relatable it is to so many people.
Yeah.
But I realized though that in watching it, I mean, there are some of its quotable things, but I realized that, like, I think the most, other than the stapler bit, I think that maybe the most pervasive quote that is entered into, like the most lasting quote that is entered into our vernacular, pop culture wise, comes from Drew when he talks about the O-face. I really feel like, because I think that phrase kind of like originates from that movie.
That phrase, and there actually is a word that originated in this movie.
Oh.
Do you have any idea what it is? Either of you?
The word that originated from the movie.
Yeah. It's not a nice one, but it is kind of funny.
I should have known, but I don't know.
Ass clown.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I'm almost positive I'd heard that before the movie, but whatever. That's awesome.
And that
Not
is
really,
why, and that is why this is a movie to me that falls in the camp of everybody should see it at least once. Whether or not it's your kind of movie or you like it isn't important. The reason you should see it is to realize the sayings and terms that exist in culture that came from this movie. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like Wizard of Oz. If you haven't seen Wizard of Oz, you miss out on Somewhere Over the Rainbow. You miss out on stuff that's like so common in culture that you don't even realize where it came from sometimes.
Yeah.
And this is one of those movies. Like it's like another one would be like Monty Python, Quest for the Holy Grail.
Oh yeah.
More so about 15 years ago than now. But it's so much part of culture that you're using terms and jokes from this movie that if you've never seen it, you don't even realize are from this movie. So when you see it, you're going to be like, oh, that's where that came from.
Mm-hmm.
So I think everybody should see it because of that.
So Chuck, I know you've watched it like obsessively.
Obsessive is an understatement. I no joke went through a period of time for probably about 3 months or so where I watched it every single day.
Wow. See, and that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And of course, when I first saw it, I was like obsessed with it. And I think I was like 16 years old, and I thought it was like one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. And I still love it to death. But Matt, who I've known for most of my life, I don't think we've ever like watched this movie together or even really talked about it. Have you? Was this like your first time watching it or revisiting it, or?
No, this is the third time I've seen it, and I would say second time, and I would say only the second time I was actually focused on watching it. I saw it the first time a long time ago. Yeah. The second time was kind of in passing. I think it was on TV or doing something else, and you're watching this movie. Right. And then I watched it today, and it was not a joke that I literally just finished it.
So I'm interested in your thoughts then, Matt. What are your initial thoughts on Office Space as a film? Give us a little mini Matt review.
Oh my goodness, does it mean so much more now that I work in a setting that some parts of this are so dead on perfect, it's scary.
Yeah.
For example, the world I exist in right now is government work. I work inside the jail. I work night shifts, which just automatically creates this bizarre community. We use a language that other people don't understand. Like there is no such thing as Monday through Friday. It is my Monday, my Tuesday, my Wednesday, because all of us have different set days off. So we don't even talk as far as what day of the week it is. It's like, today is my Monday, today's my Tuesday. Mm-hmm. But in our world, it's email. But the TPS report thing was so much funnier and so much more meaningful now than it ever was when and I thought it was funny the first time I saw this, but I was like working part-time jobs as like a high school senior or something the first time I saw this. Now I'm like ingrained in the culture of a community that is very much an office setting where it is the same people every single day. You kind of feel like you are literally imprisoned to the job. That is not a pun intended. It is work inside the jail, and it feels like the job sometimes is a form of imprisonment, that you're stuck there. You have no say in anything. And the amount of times I've heard the words, didn't you get the email? Is not, it's not even funny. So to see this now where he's, didn't you get the memo? I died laughing on a level that was so much deeper than before. Like I'm dying laughing, but also wanted to cry. I wanted to have tears.
Do you also have 8 bosses?
It is. I have one direct supervisor, but I would say I have so many more than 8 bosses. And every shift has a supervisor, and because supervisors' days off shift to different days and stuff, our supervisor isn't there on our shift, so the supervisor of the shift before or after is the one who comes to us and reports what they think the issue is. And although it tends to run pretty smoothly, in case anybody from work is listening, it tends to run great. It's a super job. I love it. Woohoo. But every supervisor has a different, like a different idea of what you should be doing and how you should be doing it. So when they come to you, the line of didn't you get the memo? Replace the word memo with email. And I've heard that so many times in my life from supervisors and fellow employees, which is exactly what this movie shows. He gets confronted by two supervisors and he goes out to eat with his friends to complain about it. One of them's like, well, didn't you get the memo? And the amount of times I've heard that from people where they're like, well, didn't you get that email? I'm like, shut up. I didn't see the email. But yeah, no, this movie, my take on it, it's incredible. It's as fitting today as it was the day it was made, although the technologies have changed, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but we'll have to explain to the millennial audience listening what a fax machine is in the first place, probably. But the office environment, the interplay between boss, employee, and coworker, it is just still today as funny and dead on as I think it was the day it was written. And if you work in an office environment and you haven't seen this movie, you need to watch it immediately, because everything about it will, from the moment that the movie opens in one of the most hectic, annoying traffic scenes ever caught on film. And how perfect is that for work? When you're heading to work and you're stuck in traffic and you're like, I got to get there, but this stupid car in front of me won't move. It's perfect. I love it.
The scene, the moment of the opening credits, the traffic sequence, all the way to the moment that Peter picks up his phone and he's like, yes, I got the memo. That whole sequence, that's the thesis statement of the movie.
Yeah.
It packs so much into that. But I'm trying to restrain myself from just going. So I'll let Matt continue.
Yeah, no, but what I love too is that scene, from exactly what you're saying, the opening shot of like an interstate that's just bumper to bumper traffic, to the point where he says, yeah, I got them on the phone. Exactly what you're saying is that opening segment is so amazingly accurate to the work world. And like the only thing I would say in that whole segment that it exaggerates for the sake of comedy is the old man with the walker that passes him while he's waiting for cars to move. Yeah. But other than that, it's like they don't exaggerate a single thing. They just show you how much it sucks to try and get to work just so that you can hate your job when you get there. Like everything else is not even an exaggeration. It's just a dead on, like, perfect impersonation of how the work world works, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, I think that's a big strength of Mike Judge, is that he's such a like, I think he's such a master observational comedy, but instead of it coming through like in stand up, he can capture it so perfectly on like in like movies and television or something. Just like, I mean, just King of the Hill alone is so like, is so brilliant because of that. Just like, this is just who this person is, and he doesn't even have to like make fun of them. You're gonna laugh at the things they say. Right? That was
what just happened?
I don't know. I'm like, I'm done. Like, you can keep going now.
That's the first time. That's the first time we've ever had like awkward dead air on the podcast.
Nobody agree? Is that what did I lose you?
You've got to leave that whole moment in, because what I love is we're on video. So our first like awkward dead air moment is caught on video where all of us just stop.
The only way
stop. We're staring at the screen like, who's gonna talk?
The only way that could have been better if there was a way for us to sort of like shift like the perspective of the camera.
I don't think Google Hangouts knew who to focus on when that happened.
I like thought that it froze for a moment. Oh my gosh! Sorry.
Yeah,
I was trying to let Matt have his moment, and then he didn't talk, and so I just kept quiet because I could tell that this was funny.
I laughed so hard that like I steamed up my glasses. I can't see anything.
Great. Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm an expert moderator. You can tell I do this for a living. Okay. So anyway, but as I was saying, no. I mean, if you're done, Matt, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add.
Oh, I'm done.
And your initial thoughts. Yeah. So I want to go to Chuck now. Chuck, this is actually one of the first movies you and I bonded over.
Yes.
Way back in college. And I remember the first things we ever did when we hung out together in college was we went to a bunch of office places looking for a red swing line stapler.
Yes, we did. We
couldn't find them anywhere. It was black and maroon, and that's it.
Right.
Yeah. But tell me your initial thoughts on this movie. Give me your Chuck mini review.
There are a few movies in the world that I would say there are about 3 movies that had a profound impact on me as in my development that I would say were life-changing movies for me, and this is one of them. When the movie came out, I was in high school, and I'll give a little background of my life. 2 things that are important. One is I am the only child of a single mom who has always worked in business administration. That's been her background for my whole life. And so my earliest memories would be for her picking me up from school and then taking me back to her office for a couple of hours while she finished work for the day. So I grew up in anonymous office parks with print rooms, receptionists. Like I got to know all the people. My mom had a cubicle for many years when she worked for a real estate agent. My Aunt Betsy, who lived nearby, she worked in a place in Altamont Springs that sold computers to offices, which that was still a novel thing in the late 80s. And that place was, no joke, called Businessland, which is like the most perfect name for what it could be. Oh my gosh. So I grew up around corporate parks and in office spaces my whole life. So when I first saw this movie, I recognized everyone. And that's, to me, the thing about the movie I could go on and on about is how pitch perfect the casting is. Not a single person is wasted, and everyone is precisely who they need. Like, the casting director of this movie should be celebrated for the rest of their life for how well they did in casting this movie. But the other thing is that when this movie came out, I was in high school, and I was a sophomore in high school, and I did not like school, and I was fairly unhappy in my school environment. And this movie came out, and I didn't see it when it came out. I didn't see it till it was released on home video. So probably by the time it came out, I might have been a junior in high school then by the time I actually saw it. Because again, it did not do well, and it really picked up steam as a result of Blockbuster.
Right.
My buddy Josh, we were driving, and he goes, "Dude, you have to see this movie, Office Space." And I remember seeing previews for it back in the day, or before, when it was in its theatrical release. And he's like, "You have to see it." I'm like, "What? It's like a lame office corporate movie. Like, it doesn't look that funny." He's like, "No, it's like it's a whole different kind of funny." He's like, the premise is this guy, he hates his job and he gets brainwashed. He's getting hypnotized, and the dude dies from hypnotizing and just leaves him in this nirvana state. Like, you have to see this movie. I was like, okay. So I watched it, and immediately, like, again, changed my life, because I watched it and I was sort of like, yes, that is kind of the attitude I'm going to take in life from here on out. The Peter Gibbons sort of, I'm just not going to care anymore, because what's the point in caring? And so I went from being a really angsty, confrontational teenager that was constantly fighting with my administrators. Like, every single day I got in an argument with some kind of administrator at my school, to I just didn't care anymore. And I started wearing sandals to school. I had a uniform. I just started wearing sandals to school. It's like, whatever. And they kind of left me alone. And it sort of mirrored the whole, like, Peter thing, where he stops caring, and then they're like, "Oh wow, this kid's really got something going for him." And it just, so it was, this movie was a life-changing thing for me. I don't know if it was a healthy life change, but it was a life change. And as a result, I've watched this movie, as I said, so many times, and it has also just come back around so many times in my life. for a little while I was I painted garage floors in new construction in Orlando, like in Lake Mary and like Gotha and places like that. And I suddenly related to Lawrence more and more every day working on the job. And to the point that when I was working there, my voicemail on my phone, when you called, was the part where he says, yeah, I got to wake my ass up 6 a.m., drive out to Boscalitas. Yeah, I'm doing the drywall in the new McDonald's up there. That bit was my cell phone. Like when you call, that was my voicemail piece. And
That's Las Colinas, by the way. It's in Texas.
Oh, Las Colinas. Okay, yeah, Las Colinas.
I used to go there a lot when I was a kid.
See, by the way, you were the one who told me that this was filmed in Texas. I had no idea where it was filmed. But and that's when you mentioned that Las Colinas, or is that like Las Colinas? Yeah. When you told me that was a real place, I can't lie, I was a little bit disappointed. Like, oh, they didn't make that up. That's a real place. But and as a result, the people from my church who were super conservative and uptight would just like hang up the phone because they didn't want to hear a swear word in my voicemail.
Such a rebel.
So as I've already said, I love this movie. I used to watch it every single day. I have many of the songs in the soundtrack memorized. And I also think the soundtrack is perfect for the movie. And the casting is perfect, and I could go on and on and on and on, and I won't, because I know we're going to do a whole episode, but I love it so much.
Yeah. I watched like a pretty long, not pretty long, like a retrospective, with Mike Judge on the movie, and he was talking about Lawrence, and he was like, Lawrence is basically is based on like just the plumber who comes in your house, and when he finishes the work, he tells you everything he did. Like,
yeah.
So what I did was, you see, I went there and I put the unit there, and I did that there. Like
the fact that he's like, I have to wake my ass up, I have to wake my ass. What is it? I have to wake up at 6 a.m., drag my ass to Las
Colinas.
Las Colinas. I've been saying Boscalitas for years. So Las Colinas is, and then before no one asks the question, he just says, yeah, I'm doing the drywall in the new McDonald's up there. The fact that he says, yeah, I've met that guy.
Yeah.
I met him. He lives in Deltona, Florida. Like, I've met that person.
I think Lawrence is he's pure light to me.
Yes.
Like, he just makes me so happy every time he shows up. And I love that he's used so sparingly.
Right, and doing pitch perfect, and like, I mean, great little character quirks. Again, why the characterization in this movie is so great. I mean, like when he, first of all, he just gets up and avails himself of a beer from Peter's fridge, doesn't ask,
with his own bottle opener.
That's the part I was going to get to, is like Peter like hands him a bottle opener, and they're in the same tiny apartment kitchen, and he goes, I got it, and he pulls out his key ring and uses it to open the beer bottle. Which, again, I've met this guy.
I've met that guy too, except he pulled off his shoe and used it as a bottle opener.
Shut
up. He had a flip-flop with a bottle opener in the bottom, and he wanted to make sure everybody knew. So you got to hand him something. You're like, oh no, I got it. And takes the extra 45 seconds to take his shoe off and open it.
God, what a douche.
They're talking about JP.
It was JP. It's JP, guys.
I'm that guy. I don't care.
Yeah. Here's a question for you. Who are you in the movie?
Who am I? Who do we relate
Both
to?
of
Or
you. Who's the character that you watch the movie and you're like, either the one that you're like, oh, I want to be him, or the one where you're like, oh, like, crap, I'm him.
In an office setting, or like right now, or
in the movie? Just who are you? You tell me. I'm asking you. I'm moderating for a second.
I am Samir stuck in traffic at the beginning of the movie. Just screaming profanity into the ether. Here's the deal. I think part of us all want to be like Zen state Peter.
Yeah, I would hope I'm Peter, but I think I'm sometimes I think I'm like Lawrence.
Well, we're all the manager at Tchotchkes. Let's be honest.
But that's why I'm asking. It's like the Good Samaritan story. Everybody wants to be the Good Samaritan, but who are you actually?
I will say this. Now that I think, I've actually, you know what's funny, Matt? I've watched this movie for years, and I've never like tried to like relate to anybody.
That's why I'm a better moderator than you, but go ahead.
All right. Well.
There it is.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go ahead and just I think I relate to Joanna.
Yeah.
Because
I can see that of you.
She's a bit timid, but she definitely will eventually blow up in a very hilarious fashion, an unexpected way. I think I kind of relate to her out of everyone in this movie. I think it's because like everyone in this movie is kind of really mean. And I don't know. I don't think I really relate to mean people.
Well, I think Samir's not mean. Samir's a very good person.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I don't relate to Samir because Samir is very much like he wants to be like a successful, American dream. Like he wants the.
It would be nice. It would be nice to have that kind of job security. That's my favorite.
What if we're doing
Guys, how would you feel if like 50 years from now we're still doing this?
If I had $1 million, I would invest it and give a portion of it to my friend. The guy
who works in securities.
Yeah.
I knew this episode would just evolve into us quoting it. I knew.
No, I think when talking about characterization, though, I think you're right, because one of the things I noticed in this movie this time around that I had never noticed before is how cruel Bill Lumbergh is.
Yeah, actually, I have a fan theory about Bill Lumbergh. By the way, I know you don't like fan theories, Chuck, but I think I have a pretty good one.
All right, what's your fan theory?
I think Bill Lumbergh is sleeping with Peter's girlfriend.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that is interesting. Because then why would he call her?
Yeah. Or when she called him when he didn't come into work.
You see, guys, I have experience. I will not say whether it is past or present experience, but I have experience with supervisors who have a desire to be more of a friend than a boss.
Yeah, I did too.
And sometimes it comes across as him. And what I mean by that is when I watched this movie this time, my view of him was entirely different. It wasn't, oh my gosh, here's an evil guy out to ruin people's life. It was, oh my gosh, here's a lonely guy who is desperately wanting friends, to the point where he'll be like, I'm going to need you to work this weekend so that he's not alone on the weekend.
Did you guys notice that Lumbergh never says no?
Never what?
He never says the word no.
Right.
He uses the word yeah as no.
Right. Well, that fits in with like the core. Like you can tell that there's like the corporate policy that's gotten to his brain. Like no is negative, so you don't say no, but you express. I mean, because it's all in the culture.
It's like if somebody came to you and was like, "Is it okay if I drive my car right through the front of your house?" And you're like, yeah, it's probably better if you don't, rather than saying no. It's
right.
Like, yeah, it's probably better if you don't do that.
Yeah, because
it ties into stuff that I heard when I worked in clothing retail, like at American Eagle and different places, when they were always like, ask open-ended questions. Don't ask questions so that people can give a no answer. Like there's this whole thing where it gets into your head, especially if you're working your way up a corporate ladder. And so that's what I see with him, is that he's just internalized all of this like business speak stuff.
What I see is the perfect incarnation of passive aggression, which drives me up the wall. Yeah. Like when he confronts him on anything, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah. I want a boss. I would prefer a boss who walks into the room and is like, everything you do sucks. You need to change it or you're going to get fired, rather than a boss who's like, so we could probably do this a little better, don't you think?
Is this good for the company?
It's probably a better idea if we do our best rather than just kind of get by. Don't you agree? Like, that's the person I want to punch in the face. Like, just if you're be aggressive, just be aggressive. Passive aggression is that's like my pet peeve. And this guy is like, if passive aggression is your pet peeve, then this guy is like the ultimate nails on a chalkboard. When he talks, everything he says is what I hate. I hate it.
And his heightened gestures, like when he goes to take the sewing line stapler from Milton, and he's like, where is it? Oh yeah, there. I'm just gonna need to.
I'm just gonna need that.
I'm just gonna go ahead and take that.
By the way, I'm a middle child, so Milton is my character. Just so you know, I'm like
That's Milton.
I'm the guy who watches the cake get passed out to everybody else and misses his piece. That is me.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's the thing about the movie where I didn't realize until this time around how just deeply cruel they are, especially to Milton.
Yeah.
Because he's clearly like some kind of mentally challenged person. He's got a sad existence. He's taking the bus. He like clearly because of his thick glasses, like he can't drive. And they're just, and then the whole thing of like I mean, you talk about the ultimate passive aggression, Matt. It's like, well, we just fixed the payroll error, so it'll sort itself out. So nobody has to actually say the words like, you don't work here anymore. There's no one taking responsibility for anything. They're just being now cruel to him to push him out so that he's someone else's problem.
But what I think is funny is he is like the most grounded, straightforward, and honest character throughout the entire movie.
That's true. He says right at the beginning,
to the
if
point
they
where
take
he
my
says,
stapler, I'm going to burn the building. And then
I'm gonna burn the building down. It's our character who is loyalty and honesty and straightforward and never like talks around the bush, but just honestly relates to people, is the one who burns the building down.
I named the squirrels, and they were married. Can I just say, back to Bill Lumbergh for a second, who I think is he makes the movie, and Mike Judge has said that like he decided to make the movie when Gary Cole, the guy who plays Lumbergh, came in and read for the part. That's when he knew, like, oh yeah, I'm making this movie.
Yeah,
because Gary Cole, what they did is, you know, if you saw the Instagram post where I posted one of the Milton shorts, it's based on a series of animated shorts that Mike Judge made back in his days when he was doing animations out of his garage in Dallas, Texas.
Right. It wound up on the Tracy Ullman show, right?
No, not Tracy Ullman. It was, I think Milton ended up on Comedy Central.
I know, because I know for sure that they showed up at one of the Milton shorts. The first time I ever saw them and realized that Office Space was connected to that. It showed up on a Saturday TV Funhouse bit on SNL, but I heard that they had been somewhere before that.
I don't know if it's Tracy Ullman. I know it's like Saturday Night Live, Comedy Central, Liquid Television on MTV. Okay. But yeah, so yeah. See, I do it. It just gets in there. So. Where was it going? Okay,
he's like Darth Vader, guys. I mean, like A New Hope.
Just a passive. You just imagine a passive aggressive Darth Vader.
Star Wars wouldn't have. Let's be honest. Star Wars wouldn't exist if it weren't for Darth Vader. You needed that villain who made the story so much more than it was, and that's what he is. Like, this movie is nothing without the villain.
Yeah, and so.
But I don't see him as a villain. Sorry, go ahead. We
can get to it, but I agree with you. I don't see him as the villain, but as far as the movie goes, he is the antagonist. So he's the quote unquote villain of the movie, and he drives it forward. He really does. But go ahead, JP.
But Gary Cole, he definitely based his performance on Mike Judge's voice as that his version of Bill Lumbergh in the animation. And Mike Judge is like, he did it. He somehow did it better than I did. So, but that's another thing. It's that I was saying about what Mike Judge's talent is, that he could just give you a character and just like tell you who this person is, and it's like you don't even have to make a joke or a punchline. They could just start talking, and you'll just die laughing, and that's who Bill Lumbergh is. And I think one of the fascinating things about Bill Lumbergh is like he is so. Once Peter kind of falls into his hypnotic state, he is so powerless.
Right.
And it's kind of just, it kind of shows you the kind of the phoniness of corporate culture. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. None of it means anything.
Well, they also, I realized watching it too, they hint at that Bill Lumbergh himself is probably in the middle of a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
Because his birthday happens in the movie and he turns 41. And I thought that was that's an odd age to show in a movie, 41. So that means the movie opens when he's 40. The first shot you see of him is him parking his Porsche that has a license plate that says "My Porsche." he hits his little like remote lock thing, and he just stares at his Porsche for a couple of seconds before walking into the office. So it's clear like it's either it's new or it really means something to him, which is, getting a Porsche in your 40s is classic midlife crisis, cinematic language. And so I think like that's part of it too. He's impotent, right? Like, I mean, it's adding to this idea that he is this impotent, it probably, like in all the meanings of that word, midlife crisis, impotent man, who all he has is this job that gives him his, veneer of authority. But once someone like Peter comes in who just does not care anymore, it's completely powerless.
Yeah, totally. And just to kind of, I think the scene that really highlights his passive aggressiveness is after the Bobs are like really impressed with Peter, which, by the way, I love the Bobs so
the Bobs
much.
are great.
John C. McGinley, brilliant.
Yes.
But
the fact they make him look a little bit like Hitler, also perfect.
The way he plays with his mustache, I think what really highlights his passive aggressiveness is when the Bobs straight up tell him we're promoting Peter. He could just be like, no, don't. He hasn't been coming to work. He's horrible. Instead, he's like,
I'm gonna have to disagree with you there.
Like, and it's funny because like even with his passive aggressiveness, like you could tell that Bob Slidell is like really pissed off.
Oh, I know, right? Because the other guy is like he does this little thing with his nose. He's like, I'll handle this one, and he puts his hand in front of him, sort of. But like in like where he like touches the table, he doesn't actually like. That's my favorite thing too. Is the other Bob? I can't remember that Bob's name, but that Bob is another perfect encapsulation of corporate gestures, language, because first of all, the way he does his hand and kind of puts it on the table in front of that Bob is just pitch perfect. And then when he points at Bill Lumbergh and he says, you're not, the problem is that you're not challenging him. He taps the table instead of actually pointing a finger. He taps the table in his direction. Again, non-confrontational, corporate, like non-aggression, passive, just so perfect. All of it is so perfect.
So yeah, and that's, I don't know, I think Bill Lumbergh might be one of the great, whether or not he's a villain, I mean, that could be debatable, but definitely a great antagonist.
I would argue that Peter is the villain.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
He's his own, because he causes all the conflict.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, cause like, that's the kind of point I'm saying is like Bill Lumbergh, the antagonist is someone who creates obstacles for the protagonist. And like I said, he becomes ineffective eventually. Right. He can't do anything.
I mean, the ultimate message of the movie is that Peter is his own villain.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally gets to the point where he's like, oh, Lumbergh doesn't mean anything. I don't know why I let him bother me.
Which makes this movie an interesting companion piece to Fight Club.
Yeah. A lot of people make that comparison between but to be honest, I think I like this movie more than Fight Club.
Yeah.
I think this movie is aged better than Fight Club has. Fight Club is a bit, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't you think we could have made a better movie? Yeah. I think we could have done our best on that one.
It is, yeah, and it is kind of funny that we're saying that like he's ineffective. Peter is more of a villain, especially since like there is a sort of a turning point in the script when Drew, the O-Face guy, tells Peter that Joanna slept with Lumbergh, which I remember watching that for the first time, and that was kind of like a Darth Vader's your father moment. And because, I mean, Bill Lumbergh, it's funny because like he didn't, and yet he's still like, it kind of shows that like, even though Lumbergh didn't do what he thought he did, he still had that space in Peter's head still.
Right. Literally, you see it in the dream sequence, like in the next scene. Which I read, the initial plan for that was for Gary Cole to also have the suspenders on.
That would have been so great.
But they felt that was just too creepy and just too much.
I love his suspenders; they always match his ties.
Yes.
But yeah. But yeah, what about the other characters? We haven't really talked about like Samir or Michael Bolton. Michael Bolton. I that's like one character I feel the most sorry for in this movie, because I can tell he's just so angry. Like he's so upset with everything, and he doesn't know how to like express himself, and so he listens to hip hop.
See, I don't know. I kind of feel like he
has his horrible racist moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that he's I think the for Michael Bolton, for me though, is watching it last night, he's the only one who is not shown being angry about the traffic situation, because he's got an outlet. He's listening to rap. Of course, you get this funny moment where, because the song's about to drop the N-word, so he like locks the door as a black man selling flowers he rolls the window up and then he locks the door. It shows he's racist, but
right.
he's the only one who's not like angry in traffic. And if you watch him throughout the movie, the only time he gets really angry is with the fax machine.
PC load letter.
Which, do you know what that means?
No, I have no idea what that means.
Paper cartridge, load letter size paper.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means it's out of paper.
It means you're out of paper.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't know that. I didn't know that until Kana told me that she had a printer that had that error message that popped up, and that's what it meant. It's just paper, like paper compartment. That's what it is. PC is paper compartment, load letter, meaning letter size paper, and that's all that means. But obviously, unless you know that, that's another perfect thing. Engineers design things for engineers; they don't design them for consumers. So here's this guy at work. He doesn't. When he says, what does that mean? It's just perfect. It's just a perfect thing too. I can't.
David Herman.
Yeah, David Herman's a great actor, and he shows up. He was on because he was, as I was saying, he was desperately trying to get out of cracked TV when they made this, or Mad TV. I mean, when they made this movie. And he later shows up as a Yoda-sounding guru in "Dude, Where's My Car?" Yeah. And I could thank you for saying his name, because to my mind, he's always Michael Bolton. That's just how I call it. Oh, Michael Bolton's in this. But when you're talking about how bad you feel for him, the moment that I really shows what an actor he is when he succumbs to the whole Michael Bolton conversation with the Bobs, and you can just watch his soul die. And the fact that the movie has only established this with like a couple of lines of dialogue, and that you can feel that kind of pain, is a testament to how well made a movie this is. But that's when it's like you can see that he's selling himself for the corporate machine just to save his job.
But he tries to take a little bit of control.
Yeah. Right. After he ends attempting to control it, and then you immediately see him fall back into like shrinking down to nothing, because he's like, "You can call me Mike," and everybody's just staring at him, and you can see him immediately shrink back down to, "Okay, sorry."
Gosh, that just reminds me so much of working in a corporate setting. Like, I've had a couple of office jobs that are like working in Initech, and it is kind of like you make little decisions like that can like alter someone's perception of you. It's so stupid. I hate it. But yeah, I don't know. The whole like the way the whole joke is like started by like people are his name Michael Bolton, and like he hates it. Just call him Mike, and then it ends with that scene. So
also, can we just point out what a stupid question they ask him? Your name's Michael Bolton. Are you related to the singer? Why would I have the same name? Now, if I'm like Dave Bolton, and you're like, "Oh, are you related to Michael Bolton?" Like that's a legitimate question. But because I have the same name, you think I'm related?
Or just the fact, like, does that mean you're a huge fan?
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Who names their children after people that they're into?
Well, he was born before Michael Bolton.
I was joking because my son is Bond.
Oh yeah. You're raising a little Michael Bolton, is what you're doing.
I'm hoping somebody asks him, "Are you related to James Bond?"
You must really like James Bond movies. Yeah, because I named myself.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe.
So I think what's interesting about the way we're talking about this movie, and I've always kind of noticed about this movie in particular, the way we're talking about a big chunk of the film, which is mostly about sort of the corporate life that happens, that the characters that occupy the space, the corporate culture, how it's affecting everyone in the movie and stuff. No one really talks about the sort of reversal in the narrative sort of becomes like a goofy heist movie.
Yeah, because to be honest, I don't care. The movie has lasted because of the opening.
The 2/3 of the movie.
I don't believe that the movie itself, the story is not anything spectacular. It's not even great. Like, I actually thought where this movie excels and where it's genius is when nothing's happening. The second you introduce a storyline to it, it becomes just
Well, the story of Peter, falling into hypnosis, I think that's good.
Yeah, I'll take it back. I agree. That one is a unique and fun way to mix things up. But as far as like, then he didn't need to do anything. All you needed to do was play off the guys coming into review and basically promoting him because of the fact that he doesn't care about his job, so they promote him.
Yeah.
If they just kept that going and the movie about that without introducing the aspect of stealing the money and all that,
I would say, I mean, the movie has an interesting and different theme because it sort of sets itself up as an anti-work movie, but it ends being a very pro-work movie. And knowing that Mike Judge is a Republican, it does kind of hit into some of his libertarian Republican type ethos. Because I mean, the movie, the whole thing of Peter saying, we weren't meant to sit in little cubicles and do this kind of work. Well, it ends with Peter doing like outdoor manual construction work, like traditionally manly man work.
And he's happy about it.
And he's happy, and he finds fulfillment in it. And so the movie ultimately ends with, I mean, even Joanna says it, you just find something that gives you happiness. That's how you get through this stuff. And so it winds up being a pro-work movie, and the idea of finding fulfillment in the job that you do, but critiquing the fact because it's true to, and that bit is also true to Samir and Michael, because they're kind of satisfied in their jobs. They're not as angsty about him as Peter. And so they wind up working for Inatrode at the end. So they continue doing software engineering work because that's what makes them happy. But Peter clearly wants to be liberated from that and find something else to do with his life. But why I mentioned that is because I think the movie needed to liberate Peter from that. If it just ended with him being promoted, he's miserable. And I mean, it would be interesting to see the movie take that dark of a turn where he's sort of promoted into another, like, it's promotion, but it's another ring of hell.
Yeah,
another hell, a circle of hell.
Like
but
he becomes Lumberg, maybe.
Well, what I kept,
but I think that's part of what Mike Judge is trying to do, though, is to reinforce the idea that work is not the villain. It's the idea of sort of not having an idea or a passion about what you want to do with your life. That's the problem, because he's listless and unhappy. And as he says over and over, I'm working here because I just never really knew what I wanted to do.
And well, the thing that, like, even knowing how the movie goes and watching it this time around, the thing I kept waiting to happen is for somebody to snap and him to wake up.
And
break it. And I feel like that's the route of the movie. I feel like that's the route, though, that the movie could have went, is that he gets hypnotized and the guy has a heart attack in the middle of hypnotizing him and leaves him in this perfect state of, like, I don't give a crap about my job. And because of that, he starts excelling and moving up the line. And if just played off that office environment, that opening of the interactions between people to the point where he keeps getting promoted, and then somebody snaps and he wakes up and realizes, I'm the only one who's been standing in my way. And he chooses to leave and goes out and finds a job he wants. If they had done that route with it, I feel like it could have been better.
That's true.
Does he end up with Joanna?
I don't know. That's. I don't want to make that decision. I'll leave that to the writers. But I feel like it could have been a better movie if you got rid of the heist part. You already introduced one ridiculous scenario where he's hypnotized. Why introduce an Ocean's 11 scenario into it? I don't know if it's necessary. Is all.
I think, even though I don't like it, like, I think it's sort of kind of the weakest part of the movie, even though it's still funny. Like, by
don't like it, we should all be clear. It's still great and funny.
Yeah.
It's just not the strong part of the movie.
I think even though it's not very strong, I think it still pays off. Because I think the movie would have been much, much darker if it ended with Milton burning the office down without the heist. Because the burning the building down while the heist was happening, it's both hilarious and also like you're relieved that it happened. Because that means everyone got away with it.
And it leads to that scene that I was watching when we started, where Milton is the one who found the money. So he's sitting on the beach.
So even though
waiting for his drink.
Even though it's not my favorite part of the movie, I think they find a way to land it and to pull it off.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there could have been different ways to explore it.
I think so too.
And I'm wondering if one of those other ways could have been better. But the movie we have is great. So
and I think you're right, Matt, because one of the things that I've long been kind of you gave language to it that I hadn't really thought about is that the fact that the movie does spend so much time building you up to this final snap to snap him out of the hypnosis, that it does sort of leave like an unfired gun in the plot.
Well, and I mean, and if you really want to dissect the movie, it leaves this hanging question of like, okay, great. So if I don't go get hypnotized to be happy, I can never be happy. Like, is he only happy at his new construction job because he's still hypnotized into nirvana? Like,
there's your sequel.
Yeah, somebody snaps him out of it when he's like a foreman running the show.
Yeah.
Guys, don't you think we could do a better podcast?
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe I'll have to come back.
I think I just want to say that I think that what I love about this movie too is that I find it to be a very spiritual movie.
How so?
Because of its comments about sort of like the human spirit, the idea that sitting in cubicles and doing work is contrary to what it means to be fully alive and fully human, and the fact that he goes to a occupational hypnotherapist with a guy like dims lights, has a whole spiritual practice in order to sort of try to liberate him from it, and he finds this zen-like nirvana state that allows him to just sort of, I mean, he really does enter into like a zen state. I mean, where he has no attachment, and that's what that's what the movie that's what really moves the plot forward. And
plus, he really likes the TV show Kung Fu. That kind of ties into it, right?
Yeah. So I think and that's one of the things I really liked about it is I over the years is that it integrates this really interesting, well, not really interesting, but it integrates this spiritual piece into the plot of this otherwise brilliant workplace comedy.
Oh, and I mean, it's obvious, so I don't want to sound cheesy by saying it. I mean, the whole movie's idea is self-awareness is what brings joy in life. It's realizing that the thing that's keeping me from feeling joy and contentment is myself. I mean, that's basically the message to the movie, is finally realizing I can blame my job, I can blame my boss, I can blame my bad relationships, but even if I don't care about my job, my boss doesn't mean anything to me, and I get the girl I want, none of it matters if I'm still standing in my own way.
Right, which sort of fits into something Richard Rohr talks about lately, which is the idea of the false self and the true self, and that seems to be part of the narrative of the movie too. I also couldn't help but, as we've talked a little bit about this, Matt, thinking about some of the stuff that that Rob Bell said when we went to the Intro to Joy piece a couple weeks back, when he talked about the book of Ecclesiastes and the whole idea of the puff of air, the vanity piece. And that's something you said, JP, earlier about like how so much of it just doesn't matter, and how Peter sort of exposes how much of it doesn't matter when he just stops treating it like it matters. Yeah. And
also, there was a meeting, which is an inside joke that only one person probably listening to us that actually went to Rob Bell would understand. But go ahead.
By the way, I love that every one of his Instagram posts from the Intro to Joy tour has the caption, "There was a meeting." And there was a meeting.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Sorry, JP, inside jokes.
Yeah, JP goes, yeah, like he has any idea what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, you guys have your bromance, but I talked to Ch for 2 seconds and JP gets jealous. It's fine.
Anywho. So I didn't really get to give my own mini review.
Yeah, you do it. You do it. I've been waiting for it all along. This is all intro. We got more to go.
I completely forgot about it. Well, yeah. So like I discovered the movie like when I was about 16 years old. I didn't see it in theaters. I don't know why I didn't. I should have. I think honestly, I don't think the marketing was. I think the marketing done it wrong.
Well, that's what Mike Judge even said, that they didn't know how to market the movie because none of the jokes and humor in the movie plays to a trailer.
Yeah, because they're not really jokes. Like
yeah.
So it came out on like I think I saw it. It came out like on VHS, and I don't know what inspired me to seek it out. I just watched it one day and thought it was one of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my life, even at that age. And it's so funny because it's like watching this movie at 16. It kind of like made me scared of like ending up that way and went in a job like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I eventually did for a few years. Yeah. But as a movie, I love it because of the direction that Mike Judge took of just sort of focusing on the unglamorous kind of office comedy. He has said that when it was in its development stage, executives are saying like, well, can it take place in Wall Street or something, or like in a high rise? He's like, no. It's got to be like one of these nondescript 2-story buildings, and an office park.
As an aside, I have a weird fascination and like love of like anonymous corporate parks.
I don't, but that is funny. So I like that he captures that, and that it's not, and the office park and the flingers and the tchotchkes, and even the apartments with the wall-to-wall carpet.
Yep.
With the thin walls where you can hear your neighbor, and the very nondescript cars everybody drives, and that is so like, to me, I feel like that was kind of groundbreaking at the time. It's just so mundane, and it's just
like,
so
like it's like what we call normcore.
Yeah, I guess so. Kind of, I wouldn't even call it like minimalist. Like it's just what the world actually looks like.
Yeah, normcore. It's just vanilla beige there.
Well, and now not just because of the title, obviously, but this had to have a direct influence on the show later, The Office, didn't it?
Oh, definitely. Oh, I wanted to get to that.
You watch this movie and it feels like the movie version of The Office in a way. You've got the overbearing boss but they both react differently, but both of them are like trying to befriend / overlord their employees. The awkward moments, the mundane nonsense, the 2-story building where you're just that guy in the cubicle upstairs. Yeah. Like, I mean, there's a direct tie between the two for sure.
Yeah, finish your thought, Chippy.
So yeah, I love the unglamorous side. I love that he captured that. I love that it was kind of groundbreaking. I wish more movies would try that, because it kind of shows that like the movies really does stand on the characters and the people that populate the story. And even Ron Livingston has said that like, I don't think it's really about me, Peter. I think it's really about everybody else in the movie. He's like, I'm just the bus driver, and everyone else is on this bus and all getting on and getting off. And I can kind of see that. And like I said, I don't think that the last act is great, but they're still able to really pay it off. And one thing I thought was like kind of interesting about the last act is the way it kind of is shifted into gear is when Drew tells Peter that Joanna slept with Lumberg. What's funny about Drew, completely absent from the movie up until that moment. Totally absent, totally absent. And he just like shows up in at the beginning of the last act of the movie.
Yeah, he does. He just shows up when his first bit is when he just shows up. And I love it. They're like, oh, hey, Drew. Like
Yeah.
and the fact they pack it in, they're like, oh, he's there. Like, you know him and just there's history.
But
But
he Tom's party and stuff. And
yeah, and it tells them about Tom's party. That's like that's when he shows up. Yeah. And he wears the lime green dress shirt is perfect for his character.
And the sunglasses with the bands, like that's
those Oakleys. Yeah, those titanium Oakleys. I think they're knockoff titanium Oakleys, but anyway,
probably I don't know, but yeah, I think it's one of those comedies that, first of all, it doesn't really get made anymore, not in movies. I think it's kind of being done like on TV now. Like I think Crashing is sort of doing a lot of things that they're doing in this movie, the Pete Holmes show on HBO,
which I know you and Matt are really big fans of, and I need to get on watching like 2 weeks ago.
You would love it, Chuck. And one of the things I love about that is because Pete Holmes comes from like an evangelical background, and they talk about that and they show his church and stuff. And it's like they show an evangelical church, which is like totally nondescript, like not, glamorous at all. It's not like, it's not like a Catholic church or anything. It really is just like a boring church. So I want more. I'm not saying I want more boring movies, but I want more movies that just like that looks like the world around me, populated with like really great characters. And that's why I love this movie so much. And it's part of a kind of I think a series of movies that came out all throughout the 90s that were just sort of about regular people, and you could just quote them endlessly because they're so funny.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's just not being done anymore. Everything is a one-liner. Everything is like a button to end a scene. Everything is like a reaction to something funny. It's not to get all like the kids today or anything like that. But I don't know. The whole Judd Apatow style of filmmaking is good for itself. But give me back to good old-fashioned comedy, please. But yeah, I love this movie dearly, and I love the characters in it, and I think it has influenced me a little bit, the humor and stuff. And I love Mike Judge. I disagree with him a lot on his politics, but I love everything he's done. I love King of the Hill. I love Beavis and Butthead. I love this movie. Silicon Valley is a great show. I know Matt's seeing Silicon Valley, right?
Yes, I have. It's hilarious.
That's another show Chuck needs to watch that I think you would really love.
What show?
Silicon Valley.
Oh, yes, I do need to watch that.
That's Mike Judge's show he's doing now. So yeah, that's just my kind of mini review. And it is kind of funny because I did end up working 2 corporate jobs, one at a securities firm. And I kind of feel like I could have ended up like Milton. But I sort of hilariously, instead of being backed into a corner, I kind of took up a lot of space. I think one of my managers said that I had like more real estate in the office than anybody else had. But what I think is kind of funny is like, I've never had a Bill Lumbergh. My supervisors were always like actually very nice, and they were never very passive aggressive. But I think the one thing that this movie kind of captures that I felt, my background is in filmmaking, working in the entertainment industry, basically having jobs that are very, I would say, interesting and fun and give me life. I remember the first time at my first corporate job, I got yelled at or reprimanded for doing something wrong, and how miserable it made me feel, just because it's like, I just got yelled at for doing something wrong or something that I don't even care about.
Yeah.
Like, and that made me feel worse than the actual reprimand. Like, I don't even care about you. Like, this was not my plan. This is not my world. And you're mad at me. And that makes me feel awful.
It's part of that culture.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I've been there too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like, what was it? It was just a little thing. Like, why are you making me feel?
It's like the flare. Like making me feel bad, making Joanna feel bad about the flare. I think that's why I relate to her.
Yeah,
because she just wants to put her head down and do her work. And this guy's like, not the flair. He's just like, really? I'm working my butt off.
And I've always loved that the flair always, to me, has carried like a slight tone of like sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Like, you want to express yourself, don't you? Like, I love that there's that little bit about it.
Yeah. So that's my little take on Office Space.
One of the things, Matt, you were saying earlier about the connection between Office Space and The Office, I was trying to look it up because Greg Daniels was one of the producers on The Office, and he's friends with Mike Judge and had worked with him on King of the Hill. And I was trying to figure out if he was involved in Office Space, but I haven't seen anything saying that he was. But
he could have been.
I always thought that there was a connection when I saw his name on the credits back when I watched the show. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it is Office Space was a major reason how that got adapted for U.S. audiences.
Probably. You know what's interesting about The Office is I think The Office does a lot to Office Space, first of all, but also I think what The Office does and how it's so successful is that there isn't like, it doesn't go into areas of like a little heist,
right?
It doesn't have that. There's no one's burning down a building. Although there was that one episode where they thought
Dwight was burning down the building.
Ryan left something in the microwave.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely takes the parts that we were saying that what you were saying earlier, Matt, that are the stronger parts of the movie Office Space, which is just the workplace stuff, and it just makes a whole show out of that. And so in some ways it sort of embraces what Seinfeld set in television, which is that you can have a show about nothing. It's just these characters interacting with one another rather than it being about this plot narrative.
Why do you think Mike Judge used a hip hop soundtrack for this movie?
I think the juxtaposition.
Yeah.
That's my feelings on it. But that or it kind of, so in one of the editions I own of Chuck Palahniuk's Fight Club, the novel, he talks about how when he wrote Fight Club, he was trying to capture the sort of broken spirit of middle-class males of like Gen X males, mostly white Gen X males in the United States, because we had no like war to define us. We had no anything. Like they're just sort of a vanilla non-person, non-entity working these anonymous corporate jobs. And so this desire to try to feel alive. And so that there's this like under this sort of angsty thing out there. And I'm wondering if it sort of feels like the use of hip hop sort of speaks to that underlying rage that exists that was there for Gen X males in the professional world in the late 90s, but also I think sort of speaks to what hip hop is about, which is hip hop being the rage felt by black males largely of that time. Feeling, this oppression from the white man on them, which these guys are also feeling, right? I mean, it's, so I think there's just sort of a thematic connection with that speaks to it. I mean, and it's also funny because prior to this movie, you would not have expected to see hip hop used in an overwhelmingly white middle class storyline. Like that just hadn't been done before. This was the first movie to do that, and the songs are great. I mean, Damn It Feels Good to Be a Gangsta is the most perfect song for that montage of the movie.
Yeah. Well, I see it more as I see it more embodied in that opening scene. That's where he's racist. But I see it more as a juxtaposition of the fact of everything that they're whining and complaining about really isn't that big a deal.
That's a good point.
Because this music that's playing behind it is dealing with issues so much more intense. And I feel like that scene introduces that immediately, where he's listening to his hip hop in the car and he's rapping into it and he's all into it. And as soon as a black man carrying flowers starts walking toward him, he gets scared and rolls his window up to hide from him. And it's like you want to relate to being this like poor oppressed guy who's just out to like take on the world. And then the second you're confronted with a human being who's actually like out in the world and dealing with issues, you're hiding from him and scared. And then he walks away and you go back to being the tough guy. And that's the theme to the movie.
That's a really great point.
We think we're the tough guy dealing with the issues, but it's really, you're just a pathetic white guy who's working.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, that song is one of the 2 songs, because damn it feels good to be a gangsta. There's like 2 or 3 songs on the soundtrack that are done by the Ghetto Boys, and damn it feels good to be a gangsta being one of them. And then the song that plays when they're destroying the printer. And then I think this one might be as well. But if I remember correctly, that song that Michael Bolton is listening to in the car is really trying to paint a picture of what life is like in the ghetto. And the idea that, like, you know, you see these guys are bragging about all the people they kill, but they don't really need to do that. There's all this fronting and faking and all this. And it really like paints this really bleak picture of what it's like to be living in a ghetto with violence and drug dealing and all of that. Cause that's what gangster rap was basically just trying to paint a portrait of what a segment of the population deals with every single day. This is the nightmare they live in. And that song is what Michael Bolton is listening to, doing so for entertainment purposes. And like you said, the minute he sees a black man who's selling flowers on the side of the road, which indicates that that guy is selling flowers on the side of the road because he has to. Mm-hmm. He comes from a place of poverty and trouble, likely, because of just what we can see that he's selling flowers on the side of the road. And then that's when Michael Bolton's like, oh no, I don't want to deal with that. Like, I'm okay with it when I engage with it entertainment wise. But when it becomes an actual reality, there's someone struggling, there's someone of a different race, and I'm sort of perpetuating this problem by I'm going to turn the volume down, just pretend that I'm just here. And then, when he walks by, and I love that when he turns it back up, I got my pistol point cock. Let it raise shades, ready to lay shots nonstop until I see racial slur.
I think what I'm actually just realizing is like the hip hop that's used in the movie, the only time hip hop is not used in a montage is that scene. The rest of the times hip hop is used are during montages. It's the damn it feels good to be a gangster. Yep. And then the printer. The printer, the part where we're beating on the printer, that's considered a montage. And the heist. Yeah,
when they play I think it's an Ice-T song they're playing there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because the heist is it's just like they're just passing the disc around.
Yeah. They had all this drama to it, but it's just I love when he brings it, they're like, oh, that was it.
Yeah. It's all done in slow motion and like the freeze frames when they're like handing the disc off and the and then of course there's the iconic Michael Bolton stare right into the camera in slow motion.
Do you think that montage scene was inspiration for the horrible movie Now You See Me Too? The movie where they're throwing a disc around while people are talking.
Oh gosh, I've not seen. Have I seen that? I don't remember that scene. I don't know. I don't.
Guys, someday we're doing an entire episode on how much I hate that title. Now You See Me Too. How do you not call the movie You Don't? Someday, whole episode.
There it is.
Whole episode someday. Go ahead, carry on.
For years.
I also love that Michael Bolton calls his virus.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. It's just labeled virus.
As soon as he labeled it that, I literally started laughing out loud. And I'm like, in any other movie, they would like hide it by naming it like code -2419. Make it look like a system file or something, and he's just like,
or give it like a code name.
Well, and it also
give it a code name like Lumberg.
Yeah, well, it also speaks to what Matt was saying earlier about Michael Bolton's character, right? He's all boastful, right? Yeah. So he's like, "Oh, my software works." That's what he said. My software works. Like he's never done this before. My software works. And then when he gets the bank statement, it has $305,000 in their bank account, and he's like, I must have left the remainder off for a decimal or something. I'm always doing something like this. I'm always screwing up some mundane detail.
Yeah, you find out he actually has never done it right.
Right. Well, and I love I'm always screwing up some mundane detail. His entire job is rewriting software for the Y2K bug, which is like you shouldn't be messing up mundane details, Michael. Like I just love that it reveals that he actually is not that great of a programmer.
And just the fact that they're all looking up money laundering in the dictionary and stuff.
It's a great scene.
Oh, good.
Hey, Lawrence, you want to come over? No, man. I don't need you screwing up my life too.
I love the scene where they destroy the printer.
Yeah, iconic scene.
Iconic scene. I think one thing they pointed out in the retrospective that I watched was that like when they choreographed it, if you notice, they don't touch each other with their hands. They touch each other with a bat.
Yeah.
So it's like this ultra masculine, like gangster movie moment.
Well, and Peter never attacks the printer.
He's like the Godfather, just walking around. He's just walking around it.
I love it when Michael Bolton starts to just bare knuckle fight the printer, which is like, you know how much that had to hurt if you've ever done software, like all of the print, like the punched hole, like circuits with their little that had to hurt, but he's just so like he's just so, and he's dragging a piece of it away with him.
Yeah.
But that scene also shows that the fact that character Peter is like, he's really just allowed himself to become somebody who's steering and ruining these other people's lives.
Yeah.
Like he's the mastermind of their destruction, because like Father Chuck was saying earlier, they didn't really hate their job. They actually kind of liked working in the computer until he gets involved and tells them, "Don't you hate this so much? Isn't there something that you can do?"
Well, they're going to get fired, but
destroy it. But he finds that out and uses that. What if I told you you wouldn't have your job anymore?
Yeah.
Like he's just there to stir up problems. And then when it's time to destroy the fax machine, he literally is just standing by watching them carry out the dirty work. That's the execution scene of the movie. And he's just wiping his hands. He is Pilate washing his hands of the blood and watching other people carry out the act.
He hands them the bat, because the first time you see Peter, he's holding the bat, and then he hands it off.
I love we're deconstructing this montage. It's so great.
That's the thing, though. The movie, like, that's
what we're here for, guys. It's what we're here for.
That's the thing about the movie. Watching it as many times I have, and watching it last night, is there actually is a lot of deconstruction that can be done. Yeah. I mean, the movie's cinematic like economy. I mean, it's such a well-made, like well shot, well framed. There's so much stuff packed into it. Yeah, the plot could be probably a little bit better in terms of its direction. We already talked about, but so much of what they do with the movie, there's just so much going in the background. Like I love Peter arrives at work and he looks at the door handle. And you can see these angry, and it packs in just within these couple of seconds that clearly this is what happens to him every single day of his life. And he's hoping today will be the day that it doesn't, but he knows it's not true. He's going to get shocked by the door. Like he knows it. And they pack all of this in just like maybe like 15 seconds of camera work, not a line of dialogue, nothing. It's all shown, nothing's said. And you learn right there how much this man hates this moment in his life every day. And then he goes in, and the first thing that happens, he spaces at his desk, and then he grabs a stack of papers, and he's got him from, he stares at his desk, and then that's when let's see, what does he talk to Milton, and then Lumberg shows up? No, Lumberg shows up. Dom shows up, right? Dom shows up.
There's also like the corporate accounts lady. Just a moment.
Just a moment. Corporate accounts people. Just a moment. The receptionist at my church growing up, where my mom was a financial secretary, Becky was her name. And, if you were out there, you would hear her, like First Baptist Church of Central Florida, Becky speaking. First Baptist Church of Central Florida, Becky speaking. And then just a moment. And they cast her. She looks like an office receptionist. That was a great casting decision. But yeah, just that whole, and then we've already talked about the whole TPS report cover sheet. You're not using the proper cover sheet, and Peter's like, look, I just made a mistake. It doesn't go out. Like we can put the new cover sheet on. It's gonna be fixed. It's not a problem. And everybody just doesn't listen to him. And I'm gonna make sure you get a copy of that memo.
Well, I actually don't really have much else to say. I was gonna say this is probably a good place to end it.
Fine, I quit.
I mean, I think to conclude, we could all just kind of agree that it's a great movie that should continue to be celebrated for years to come.
And we're just not going to go anymore. That's just not going to go.
Nope. What about bills? Don't you have bills to pay? And
I've never liked paying those. I don't think I'm gonna do that either.
Yeah, I knew this episode just divulged us just quoting it. Like,
that's the thing is I realized I don't know how healthy it was, but like I said, I took that posture for a little while in high school, and it kind of worked. It sort of worked out for me. I mean, I am a high school dropout, so I
at least you didn't set the building on fire.
That's true. I did not.
I don't want to give away anything because life changes and things could happen. But guys, I couldn't be more excited about next week. Can we just tease our audience and say that? We're not going to say anything about who it is because life can change. Things happen. But I am as excited about this episode as I was for Rob Bell.
Should be. I think everybody should be.
I know it's so hard to. I can't believe that we are going to have Joel Osteen on our show next.
Guys, Oprah Winfrey will be stopping in next week.
By the way, I forgot to tell you guys, I was given an opportunity to go see Joel Osteen live at the BB&T Center a couple of weeks ago, and my wife and I were going to Disney with the kids, so I had to decline these tickets, but they were corporate box tickets at the BB&T Center to go see Joel Osteen. And my initial reaction was like, no. But then I thought, but for the sake of this episode, for the sake of this show, maybe. But then I thought, but I think the people who gave me the tickets, like I couldn't tell if they were either like actually on board with Joel Osteen or they were like, oh, you're an ordained person. This might be interesting to you.
Yeah, just take this. It'll be interesting.
And so if I make fun of it, I don't want to like hurt anyone's feelings. So it was probably good that I didn't. But I thought this could be interesting.
Well, that would have been great. But
anyway, long story short, that's how he's going to be on our show next week. We have Joel Osteen on our show, talking about how we can.
We're going to talk about his favorite Hoobastank album.
No, guys, we have people on I actually want to talk to.
To be honest, you want to talk to Joel Osteen, don't lie.
About Hoobastank?
Yeah, I take that back. Actually, that would be even more amazing. I really do. I want to have Joel Osteen on. We think he thinks he's going to get interviewed, and we say, "So what's your Hoobastank album?"
No, he's probably more of a Papa Roach fan. Like, I want to come on. He's all like, he's wearing like the puka necklace, and he's got like a Monster Energy drink. He's like, yeah, I like Papa Roach, Cut my life into pieces. This is my last resort. It's good.
I don't know. Are you sure? Because of that Southern accent, I kind of think maybe Puddle of Mud would be Puddle of Mud would be there. Guys,
can I give a hint about next week? Just a hint. I don't want to give it away.
Sure,
but
go ahead.
The hint is there's a connection to what we do. There is a connection to Kermit the Frog. There's a connection to Amy Grant. There is a connection to Jason Mantzoukas. So there you go. Figure out who it is. Good luck with that.
We're now connected to Pete Holmes and Jason Mantzoukas. If only we could actually get
Mantzoukas. We're gonna get both of them on the same episode with Joel Osteen.
God.
Wouldn't that be great if our podcast was like, it became like we get a famous comedian and then like a famous televangelist on the same episodes.
Oh, dude!
Just
get the douchebag pastor from what's that church in Miami that Justin Bieber goes to? His ridiculous name.
One of the hype priests. Is
that it has. What's the name of the church? It has it's like Sol Vide. It's got this It's got some French name.
Velveeta.
Like
grilled cheese.
I don't remember. Anyway.
Vist.
Vu something. I don't remember. Anyway, it'd be great to have like that guy on.
Vuvuzela.
That's it. Yeah.
I'm gonna work my Christian marketing skills and come up for our new term for when we have the world of like hyper evangelism people and comedians collide. It'll be good.
Yeah, that'd be a great podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, so that is Office Space. Go out and find a VHS copy and watch it on your big screen TV, like I did when I was a kid.
CRT, baby.
Or you
we're projection.
Just watch it on. It's on Stars right now, guys. If you guys.
Yeah, I know that because I tried to stream it and it was only available by paying extra to Stars. So I had to actually dig out my DVD booklet like a Neanderthal and watch it on DVD quality.
Oh, you watched it on SD. Ugh.
It was funny. I was telling Kane, I'm flipping. No joke. We have all of our DVDs in a zippered book, like back in the day, and I'm going through, and I'm like, ugh, I feel like a plebeian. Like I'm just going through here, and I'm just having to watch it on DVD. Like, oh, the convenience, the fact that I have a whole movie on a disc.
We have whole generations that have no idea what the words "be kind," "rewind" mean.
It's true. Really quick, this is random. But the other day I was at one of the other churches that I do services for midweek here in Boca. I was looking for one of their optional hymnal because there was a piece of music I was going to quote in my little sermon thing, and I was trying to find it. So I was digging through their choir rooms, like cabinets, and I found a box, pristine, unused, translucent neon green, 3 by 3.5 inch floppy disks.
Whoa.
Like never been used, and again translucent green. I was like, oh man, like I want these. I have no use for them, but I want them.
It would have been great in 1994.
Now, if you don't know what a floppy disk is, that's the image you click on to save on your computer.
That's right.
But seriously, next week, huge.
Oh yeah, you're gonna want to tune in. You're gonna want to,
and that is not a joke. Osteen is a joke, or at least having him on our podcast is a joke. Let me rephrase that. Having Joel Osteen on our podcast was a joke.
You're not going to say Joel Osteen's a joke, really?
Are you
being non-committal? Are you? Yeah. We could. Yeah, we could do our theology a little better, Joel. I think. Yeah. I mean, maybe if we read the Bible in these passages where it talks about the poor and the rich, maybe we would think next time a little differently about the stuff that we say at Lakeview Church.
So before Father Chuck takes on another group of faith, other Calvinists, let's move on. Next week, huge things in the works. Amazing things. Can't wait to announce it.
You're gonna want to tune in. It's gonna be another milestone for us, I think. And
yes.
It's gonna. I think it's gonna kind of open the door for us to do some more cool guests. So I'm excited. You should be excited. And if you haven't heard of them, that's totally fine. You will hear about them, and you're gonna love them.
And you will stop listening to us and go listen to them.
You're gonna jump ship immediately.
So, and that's fine. Whatever.
So join us again next week. Thank you so much for listening, and have a wonderful week. And also thank you, Father Chuck, and thank you, Jump to Conclusions, Matt.
Hey, click the subscribe button.
Oh, crap. I got to do the call to action.
Ring the bell.
Don't forget to
leave
a comment. Check out the links in the doobly-doo. Ring the bell for notifications, and subscribe and like. And I'm doing this all out of order. I don't care. Whatever. Subscribe to us. And keep loving us, please. Love us.
Also review us on iTunes.
Review us on iTunes. We need reviews. We need stellar reviews. So,
or horrible ones. Just review us.
So thank you, Father Chuck.
Yeah.
And thank you, Matt.
I can burn the place down.
It's strict 9 o'clock in the week. And thank you for listening. Join us again next week. Good journey.
Good journey.
Good journey.